I'm Elena, and this is Elena's Lab. I'm gonna be talking about some of my work that I've done in the past month or so, just because I feel like it's good to talk about your work, and I'm not the best at talking about my work, and I also think it would be a good idea for a first video for the channel to just get an idea of like what I'm about and the things I'm interested in. So here we go. I wasn't having the best day one day, and I decided that I was going to go out and take photos at this park called Okehele Park. I came across this like dirt mountain. Really, it's like it's not necessarily a mountain. There are no mountains really in Florida. It's pretty flat here. I thought it was so random but so interesting, and it was across a lake. I noticed that like a little figure was like running across the mountain. I was like, there's no way that you can even get on top of there. And so when I took the photo, I just did too much in the editing process, like just trying to come up with a look. And what I realized was like less is more, and the image itself was shot well in camera. Just looking back, I re-edited it, and I came up with this warmer looking feel to it, which I think is more similar to what I actually saw. It was a little gray out, but I think the way that I re-edited the photo, it just looks way better now. I like the warmer tones. I just think it makes much more sense, honestly. I also like the texture of the lake, the ripples in the lake. I think it's beautiful. I like the softness of the image. And I just like how small the people look in the photo. You almost can't tell that they're there. It's such a grand, big photo with just like this small, tiny person. I think it just speaks to just like the beautiful and like grandness of nature and how little we are in the grand scheme of things, but also how big of an impact that we have on the earth, clearly. And we just like have this man-made dirt mountain in the middle of a park. Another shot that I took at Okehele, this is like kind of the park Okehele is kind of like was my subject for a little bit, for a few weeks. And I got this detail shot of just like twigs and grass and leaf and just like the crunchy leaves, you know what I'm talking about, the ones that you step on. And I like the texture in the photo, but I also like the texture of the shadows that it creates onto the already textured leaves and dirt and twigs and grass. Just like the shapes that the shadows make on the already textured grass. I think it's interesting, and I like the way that the light shines on this one bit of grass or leaf. I just want to say also that the mountain one I shot on my Fujifilm X-T4, and then this one as well is also on my Fuji X-T4. When I'm feeling down and out and I need to like stop my racing mind and just slow down, I try to find like a nature preserve or a park to go to and just find stuff to photograph. I find that photographing landscapes are very calming to me, and I want to show that through the photos that I take, and give that sense of like contemplation and almost like loneliness, but not in like a negative way, more just solitude, I think would be a better word to describe it. And so this day I went to a nature preserve called Chapel Trail. While I was walking the nature preserve, I ran into a family. I ran into a couple, a man who was also doing landscape photography, and it it felt good to connect with people and just not be on my phone. And it also felt good to just look at the sunset and the way that the light makes this nature preserve just so beautiful and warm. So this next one I took is Untitled Chapel Trail. It's an image that kind of reminds me of like a Claude Monet painting, like the lilies and the lake and stuff. I think it has this like soft painterly feel, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I like the way that the grass kind of leads you around the photo and the way that it frames the duck and like the silhouette of the duck. And I just love the stillness of the water except for the ripple that the duck creates being in the water and how it just circles around it. And I love the gradient on the gradient that the sun creates on the water, the way it's reflected. I think it's a beautiful, soft, contemplative, painterly feel of a photo. I very much like this photo, and I'm pretty impressed with it. So this next image is also another untitled image from Chapel Trail. The last time that I was there was a big brush of like hedges and stuff, and you couldn't really see what was next to the nature preserve. When I came this time, that had to have been like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. When I came to it again this time, I think they might have burned down or cut some of the hedges down because I was able to see what was next to the trail, and there was just like buses and trailers, like school buses, and I didn't know that that was next to it. I found that very interesting. And so I got this image of the trailer, and it's interesting because the sun is up above the trailer, but somehow there's this beautiful reflection onto the window of the trailer, and I think it's because of what's in front of it reflected the light, this beautiful light onto the window of the trailer. And I thought it was very interesting to see like the man-made next to the nature. And I just like the way that the leaves frame the photo. I like the shadows of the trees and the way that the sunlight is hitting the leaves of the bush in the foreground. Yeah, I like the contrastiness of it, the deeper shadows in the foreground and then the light in the background. So this next set, I guess you could call it, of photos, I took on my Canon AE1, my film camera, and I tried out this new film stock called Candido. I'm pretty sure it's made from like motion picture film, and then they take off a layer so that you can develop it in C41, and I think it's like an anti-halation layer that they take off, so then you can process it in C41 chemicals, and it creates the whole halation around the lights. And if you're a photographer and you like film, then you know what I'm talking about. I didn't love all of the photos, but I did love two of them. I took at night. With this first one, I like the lens flare, honestly, on the house, and I don't normally like the red halation around the lights. It kind of which kind of steers me away from like the Cinestill and maybe even this Candido. But I think it works for this because the lens flare with the halation with the look of the film stock, it creates this kind of eerie look and feeling to the photo that I can appreciate, along with the softness of the edges of the trees and just the slight break in the clouds and just the softness of the clouds. I think it creates this kind of like dreamlike this dreamlike quality where it's not when you have a dream and it's not very clear like what you're seeing, or like your memory is hazy about it. I think that this photo kind of represents a dream, at least my dreams, I think, very well. Just like this weird, unsettling feeling. And I like the light in the window, the slight glow of it. Yeah, I think it's an interesting starting point, and I was experimenting with the film stock, so I think it's an interesting starting point to maybe creating some other dreamscape works. I think it's a good starting place for sure. Okay, so with this next one, I kind of just have to say the same things about it. I again like the lens flare and how the the face of the subject kind of melts into the lens flare. I think that's so interesting. I found this lighting, this eerie, weird lighting, next to a building, and just let the grass and the shrubbery kind of frame my subject. Yeah, and again, I like the dreamlike quality of it, the rough kind of not clear. I wouldn't necessarily say rough, maybe like the softness that makes it so unclear in the image. It really gives this like dreamscape, dreamlike quality that I think I want to explore more. Yeah, and I think the lens flare kind of works with the melting of the face. It's I think it's an interesting starting point to some other, maybe better work. Next is a photo shoot I did with my girlfriend. I wanted to do a natural earth tone, ethereal feeling to the photos. So first I shot with Portra 160, and then I put a Tiffin Black Pro mist filter. I think it's like a quarter. So I picked three of my favorites out of the group, and I'm just going to generally talk about the three images, but I'll first kind of speak on this one with just the legs. I liked the movement of the photo, and I just had my partner run across the landscape, and I just captured just their feet. And it ended up turning out great. I was a little nervous about if I got the image, but I did. I like the colors that the Portra film stock gives you. I like the look. I like the natural tones to the images. And I like the kind of background that I chose. I found this like giant bush that was on top of like this hill. There was a tree across from where we were shooting, and I also used a reflector to get some light on the face where there were some shadows because of those trees. But I like the warm, natural tones of the images, and I would like to shoot more portraits with people. Now, for an honorable mention, I recently purchased a Polaroid Go, just like the Polaroid point and shoot, the tiniest one that they have. Just because I think that it's a fun medium, it's fun to shoot when you're with friends. I wanted a film-like photo that could instantly come out and I could have the image as soon as I took it, and so I bought the Polaroid to kind of fill that void. And it's not perfect. It sometimes the chemistry is weird, or there's these like weird lines that happen on like the edges of the photos that I have yet to figure out why that happens. I think it's maybe the way that the film develops in my pocket that could create that. But anyway, I want to talk about this image I took at a movie theater I went to. The sign was very old, and the movie theater was very nostalgic looking in the way that it was like untouched, like it hadn't been updated or anything. And so I was trying to get a picture of the sign when I saw that these boys were about to come across and they were doing tricks on their bicycle. So I was like, okay, like this was my decisive moment, right? And so as soon as they came across, I took the picture. Obviously it was shot on a Polaroid Go. It's not the best looking image out there, but it's one of my favorites that I took, and I love the movement of the boys coming across the frame. I think it's a fun image. So yeah, those are a few of my favorite photos that I've shot in the past month. I thought this would be a great introductory video just to get an idea of who I am and what I like to shoot. And I'm excited to keep making videos and hopefully do more behind the scenes of kind of B-roll footage, I guess, of the places that I visit and the shoots that I go on and the projects that I want to work on. Yeah, so that's it. Catch you later on the next one, maybe.